Headed into this past year's offseason, Blazer fans were justifiably worried about Norman Powell leaving in free agency. However, Neil Olshey got the job done, Norman Powell is back, and this is his player preview for his upcoming season for the Portland Trail Blazers. What's going on? Welcome back to another one of these player previews. We're talking about Norman Powell today, but before we get into that, you can win some tickets. If you buy merch, you'll be automatically entered to win 2 300 level tickets. We will hold that drawing on Blazers Uprise Live on October 18th. So if you buy merch before then, you will have a chance to go to opening night. You also get some sick merch. We have a zip-up hoodie there in the graphic. We have phone cases, and we have mouse pads, and I think the mouse pads look sick. There's 2 options for you. So if you buy some merch, you got a chance to win tickets. I think it's a pretty cool giveaway that we're running right now. Anyway, let's jump into Norman Powell's player preview. Last season at the deadline, Norman Powell, of course, got traded to the Blazers for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. These season stats reflect both his time in Toronto, aka Tampa Bay last season, as well as Portland. He played 69 games, started 58 of them, started all of them for Portland, came off the bench in 11 for Toronto. During his 69 game season, he played 32 minutes per game. He averaged 18.6 points per game, 3.1 rebounds, 1.9 assists. He shot 47.7% from the field, which includes 41% from 3 and 53% from 2. He also shot 87% from the free throw line for a true shooting percentage of 62%. It was a very efficient season for Norman Powell last year. His efficiency was better in Toronto, where he shot 50% from the field and 44% from 3. That efficiency dropped off a bit when he got traded to Portland. He only shot 44% from the field and 36% from 3. So part of the key for Norman Powell this upcoming season will be to try and get his efficiency numbers back in line with what they were in Toronto. Now, he probably overachieved during his time in Toronto last year. It wasn't a super large sample. It was only 42 games. However, we all know that he can make shots, especially 3-pointers from the corner, which is where he'll get a lot of his looks this year, in my opinion. And we all know he can attack the rim and finish. So hopefully those efficiency numbers will be more in line with what they were in Toronto than what they were in Portland. Diving into his offensive game, I think we need to try and get him slashing opportunities where he can attack the rim and use his wingspan, use his athletic ability to finish. He's not a guy that is going to break down his guy at a very high level off the dribble. So he's not a guy like Dame or CJ where you just give him the ball and they'll be able to make something good happen consistently. He can attack guys off the dribble and he can make things happen, don't get me wrong. However, that is not the main staple of his game, quite like a lead ball handler. He's more of a wing. So in order to get him more slashing opportunities, I think we need to incorporate more motion in our offense, which is what we're doing right now. The results haven't been pretty in preseason. However, I'm not worried. It'll take some time to figure things out. I'll talk more about a couple different actions they can use to get Norman Powell opportunities to just straight line drive to the rim a little bit later in this video. I want to see Norm improve his passing and his playmaking ability this year. That's something that he said he wanted to do, and we'll have to wait and see on if he's able to accomplish that. The Blazers have been very turnover prone this preseason. However, I'm not going to read too much into it. For Norm's case, I just hope he's able to make the right read a little bit more consistently, and as a scorer, just pass when he needs to. He's not going to be a guy that's getting 5 assists per game or anything, but I do think he needs to recognize passing opportunities a little bit more. Norm is obviously a transition threat. The problem is we did not run much in transition last year. I'm expecting us to do that more often, and if we do so, it'll fit his game. He's a guy that can push the pace as a ball handler and is actually very crafty getting to the rim in transition, and then he can also be a lane filler and even a lob target at times. We didn't see that last year with his tenure in Portland, but he does have the athletic ability to go and finish a lob as well. So he is a multi-dimensional transitional threat. And then the other part of his offensive game that is basically the biggest thing for him is he's just a 3-point sniper. 38% from 3 for his career, shot 41% last year, and he's money from the corners. So that's the highest quality three-point look, and having a guy like that you can just park in the corner and he can knock down threes. But then also if guys try and run him at the line, he's very capable of attacking downhill and making things happen for himself. That is a great asset to have next to guys like Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and Jusuf Nurkic. Now before we get into his defensive game, we got to talk about the rebounding. He needs to be impactful on the defensive glass. I'll go over a statistical goal for his rebounding and kind of go more into the stats. However, Portland is just a short team, and they need more help on the boards from the 3 and 4 spot in the starting lineup. Robert Covington and Norman Powell have to be big on the glass this year. Jusuf Nurkic is a good rebounder for his position. And it's not even like Dame and CJ are bad rebounders at the guard spots. You just need your 3 and 4 to be able to help control the glass. That was a problem in the playoffs last offseason, and honestly, you can probably look at Norm more than anyone if you're trying to find fault in the starting lineup for the lack of rebounding. So it might not even be grabbing boards. He just needs to box out more, and he isn't a guy that should struggle to rebound the ball, so why he doesn't rebound better is very confusing to me. Now let's talk about his defense. His defensive game is inconsistent. He has moments where he looks really good, and he has moments where he struggles. The one area in which he really struggles is I feel like he falls asleep a bit too much playing off the ball. He's the type of guy to get back cut. He's the type of guy to not necessarily be in the right positions consistently, and it's kind of hard to tell because he won a championship playing for Nick Nurse and the Toronto Raptors. Of course, they had Kawhi, but that was a great defensive team, and Nick Nurse wasn't the type of guy to let Norman Powell fall asleep and still play a bunch of minutes in that postseason run. His minutes waned a little bit there, so maybe that was part of the issue. I just have to wonder if once he got to Portland, with how bad our defense is, he kind of lost some focus defending off the ball, because it was basically just a situation where we just tried to outscore people. So hopefully that improves this year. He needs to be more focused off the ball, and he just needs to be more locked in general, because when it comes to him defending on the ball, I think he's a good defender when he's locked in, but I feel like his focus and intensity is inconsistent. Sometimes he'll seemingly take a challenge head on and do a pretty good job defending on the ball. And then there's other times where he looks like he's a mediocre defender at best, maybe even a below average one defending on the ball. So his on-ball defense is inconsistent. He has the physical tools to be a good on-ball defender, and I think it just comes down to a consistent focus and level of effort from him when defending on the ball. Now, as far as him defending small forwards, which is a big topic of contention for Blazer fans, he's not as undersized against small forwards as people think. Everybody looks at height. I look first at standing reach. You don't play basketball with the top of your head. You play basketball with your hands. If I'm reaching up to grab a rebound, it doesn't matter where my head is, it matters where my hands are. It matters how high I can reach. And that's the same thing when you're contesting a shot as well. So Norman Powell has an 8'5.5" standing reach, which is a little bit undersized for the small forward position, but not as much as you would think given the fact that he's listed as 6'3" in terms of height. His standing reach compares to a number of small forwards in the league. For reference, here are some players who have a standing reach within an inch of Norman Powell's: Cam Johnson, Miles Bridges, Rodney Hood, Doug McDermott, Kevin Porter Jr., Tobias Harris, Gordon Hayward, Evan Fournier. Here are some players with an equal or even shorter standing reach than Norman Powell. You have DeMar DeRozan, Jaylen Brown, Kelly Oubre, Jake Layman, Karis LeVert, Dorian Finney-Smith, Brandon Clark, Dylan Brooks, Harrison Barnes, Joe Harris, and Jimmy Butler. So I think the whole Norman Powell is way too undersized to play the 3 thing is a bit overblown. He is definitely undersized for the position, but I don't think it's as drastic as people make it out to be. Now, you can argue that height is more important. I don't follow the logic. I don't see it, but you can make that argument. And, you know, in your mind, if you think height's more important, then I see why you would think Norman Powell is extremely undersized, because he's listed as 6'3". But I think standing reach is a better measurement in terms of trying to gauge the impact on the basketball court that a player has than height is. And also, when when I look at small forwards, what small forwards are going to have their way with Norman Powell because of their height? Maybe Michael Porter Jr., but he's 6'10". He's shooting over every starting small forward in the league with no issue. LeBron James might play some 4 this year, and he has his way with pretty much everybody as well. As far as any other starting small forwards in the West, there's really no guys that I see Norman Powell struggling with due to his size. So the lack of size issue might apply more on the defensive glass than it actually does on the defensive end in general and just shutting down teams. Overall, it's a pretty controversial discussion and debate, but that's where my opinions lie. Now, in terms of Norman Powell's usage in the half court, he's a guy that I want to see us having him cut more. I want more design cuts for Norman Powell, and I just want more freelance movement in general within our offense, which should help cultivate that. I want Norm coming off of screens with the option to run into a catch and shoot 3, but then also if the defender's trailing, he might have a straight line drive opportunity. And I feel like that will play to both of his strengths, both his 3-point shooting ability as well as his ability to slash. And it'll do so without him having to set a guy up in isolation and shake him loose with a dribble move. Now, as far as transition goes, he's a hit-ahead guy. Chauncey has preached hit-aheads during training camp, and I think he's the number one guy in terms of being a threat down the court for a hit-ahead pass that can then go and finish. The Blazers don't want to leak out too much in transition on offense. You got to go control the defensive glass, which was an issue for them in the playoffs last season, so you have to find that right balance, but I really like Norman Powell as a hit-ahead guy, and then also as a lane filler with his speed as well as his athleticism. As far as his role goes, he's going to be the starting 3. He might play some spot minutes at the 2. That is dependent upon 2 things. It's dependent upon injuries, of course. If CJ McCollum or Damian Lillard is missing time, then the other one will likely be the starting point guard, and then Norman Powell will probably play the starting 2. You might see him throw Anthony Simons into that mix, but if one of our 3 guards is missing, then Norman Powell will slide down and at least play some shooting guard minutes. His potential to play spot minutes at the 2 is also dependent upon Simons's production. If Ant is crushing it, then I think he's the backup 1 and the backup 2, and he gets all the backup guard minutes. If Anthony's struggling a little bit, then I still think he plays backup point and some backup 2 next to Dame, but there would be a chance that Norman Powell would get some spot 2 minutes. So guard injuries and Anthony Simons' production is what determines how many minutes Norman Powell will play at the shooting guard spot this year. Now let's jump into statistical goals. My minutes per game prediction / goal for him is about 33 minutes per game. He played 34 last year, so I think 33 minutes per game makes a lot of sense. If he's playing 33 minutes per game, I have him with a goal of 17 points per game, which is exactly what he averaged last season for the Portland Trail Blazers. I think he might get 1 or 2 less shots per game, but I'm hoping he'll be more efficient than he was last season in Portland, so that offsets that. I also want to see him getting 4.5 rebounds per game, which might be a little bit ambitious. Last season, he only averaged 3.1 rebounds per game. That was in 32 minutes. He has to be better on the boards. For his career, he only averages 2.5 rebounds in 21 minutes per game. That equates out to 4.3 rebounds per 36 minutes. So if he's playing around 33 minutes, I want him to be better than before in terms of rebounding the ball. His rebounding has actually dropped off throughout his career. He averaged 5.5 rebounds per 36 his rookie season, and then that was down to a career low 3.5 rebounds per 36 last season. So he needs to reverse that trend. He needs to help the Blazers control the glass. I have a goal of him averaging 2 assists per game. His career high is 1.9, so 2 assists per game would be a career high for Norm. I want to see him shoot 54% from 2. For his career, he shoots 53%, but that was down to 50% last year with Portland. So if we're able to help generate higher quality driving opportunities for Norman Powell and get him some looks in transition, then I think he can get above his career average and shoot 54% from 2. And then I want him to shoot 40% from 3. For his career, as I said, 38%, 41% last year, but only 36% in Portland. So getting him back up to around 40% would be good for the offense. And that is my 3-point percentage goal for him. And with that, that wraps up this player preview for Norman Powell. If you haven't watched any of the previous ones, there will be a playlist link down in the description box below for you to go check them out. As I said at the start of this video, buy some merch and you'll have a chance to win opening night tickets. So there will also be a link to our merch page down in the description box below. And with that being said, I'm out of here. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.